we've got one outcome from this, which is to give you the ability to come up with a strategy to build your revenue consistently over the next 12 months. And then you can reset and do the same all over again. And we're going to look at the 3 growth factors, which sounds a bit hormonal, but it's not. It's actually much more interesting than that, if that's possible. The 3 growth factors are, well, let's put it this way. Some things are so obvious that you don't really think about them until they're pointed out. And this was one of those for me. I first kind of discovered this from one of my early mentors when I was really heavily into direct marketing and direct mailing. It's got a gentleman called Jay Abraham, who, if you've never seen or watched any of Jay's stuff, you really should, particularly if you're going to be using any kind of written communication with people, or if you're looking to sort of create add-on value to your client relationships. But I digress. I first came across Jay. I literally bought one of his programs because I got a direct mail piece, which kind of, proof of the pudding and all that. But I'd been trained over the course of 12 years, because when I first came across Jay's stuff, I think I was about 31, 32. In fact, no, I was 32. And I'd been through all the training courses that you go through in corporate life, and I'd been through all the training. I'd read a load of books. I'd become a member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, which is the equivalent of doing an undergrad degree in marketing. I thought it was pretty switched on. I'd run a big operation for one of the big sports companies. I'd started my own business, and it had taken off. It was quite successful, thank you. So my treat to myself and the family for putting up with it was to go out to Tuscany for 3 weeks. Rented a villa, went out to Tuscany. First time I've been there, it was amazing, absolutely amazing. Everything I expected it to be, and a bit more. And because I'm, well, let's be polite and call me a nerd. As we drove across the continent, one of the things that was in the boot was a big pack of J. Abraham's training materials, because I study stuff for fun. That's just me. Maybe it's you if you're watching these in your private hours. So I've got this big pack of stuff, and I went out by the pool in the villa that we got, and started reading, and I got through the first few chapters, and it's a bit wordy, but it's fine. There's some good, oh, that's interesting, and oh, that's quite good. And then we got to this. And as I say, it's one of those things that in hindsight, it's so staggeringly obvious that you wonder why nobody gets taught it. And I'd been in sales for 14 years at that point. I'd been a professional marketer. I'd run a big marketing operation for a global company. And it was the first time I'd ever come across this concept. And it was such a smack straight in the head. I literally read that chapter, put the book down, went inside, and I didn't go back to the book for 3 days, because it was just such a smack in the head. How can I not know that? What the hell? And obviously I finished the rest of the book, but and the rest of the training materials. But what I also started to do was to apply the 3 growth factors to my fledgling training business, and we just hockey stick straight up. And it has the potential to do the same for you, because I've applied it to my businesses, I've applied it to clients' businesses, I've applied it to with individual recruitment consultants, and it's just one of those things. Once you really integrate the 3 growth factors into everything you do, it really just simplifies and focuses all of your attention. So let me explain what this thing is, the 3 growth factors. And I've having flagged it already, I don't feel guilty about saying, this is so obvious. You're quite likely to go, well, yeah, okay. But common sense is very rarely common practice. And bear that in mind as we talk about 3 growth factors, which are the fact that there are only 3 ways to bring more revenue into your business. You can have more customers, coming back more often, and spending more each time. That's it. There is no 4th way to bring increased revenue into your business. More customers, coming back more often, and spending more each time. That's it. Everything else is tactics to deliver those three things. Anything you want to achieve, anything you want to deliver, anything you want to get comes from some combination, some balance of those three elements. More customers, coming back more often, spending more each time. That's it. Well, Stephen, that's a bit simplistic. You know, I've studied marketing, I've studied this, that, I've studied all these things. Yeah, absolutely, so have I. This is one of those core principles. And once you genuinely get it, the first question you'll ask yourself in every situation you find yourself in business is, what's the balance? What's the balance I need to strike in this situation to drive the business forwards? It's really that fundamental. So let me give you a few examples. If you're a startup, let's say you might be a rookie, or you might have started up your own firm, or you might have moved from one sector to another. What's the balance there? Well, I need to get more customers. I need to get new customers in. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. At that stage, it's all about getting new customers through the door, because you can't get them to pay more until they're paying, and you can't get them to come back more frequently until they've come to you in the first place. So with a startup, it's all about, how do I get the right customers through the right doors at the right place, the right price, so that you can start the way you mean to go on. But fundamentally, the balance is tilted almost exclusively to getting new customers through the door. I've started with a simple one for obvious reasons. Let's look at a slightly different one. Let's say that you are on a PSL. You're a tech recruiter, and you're on a PSL for this particular kind of recruitment, because what a lot of people tend to ignore about PSLs is that with the PSL, you tend to get siloed. I'm on the PSL for this type of role. One of my best friends in recruitment, his firm works on recruiting high-end teams who are developing completely new applications and completely new services for financial companies. So that's what they do. They don't do single roles, they just do teams, and it's that particular industry they work within. That's their thing. That's what they do. And that's great. And they're on many, many PSLs, have been very successful, and they've been at it a long time. However, we had a conversation a few months ago, and kind of realised that, that's what they're doing, and they're doing it very well. And they're on lots of PSLs for that. But what about all the assignments around that they're never considered for? Okay, so we've got the customers, and actually we're quite happy with the fees we're getting, but what about all the other roles that we're not touching? Because on that situation, for them, the balance is different. The balance is, okay, let's get more from what we've got. Let's get them coming back more often. So let's make them aware that we can work other kinds of roles, that we can be involved in other kinds of disciplines, that we can do other things in other ways, because they have other divisions and other subsidiaries that do different kinds of work. So in that situation, you're already doing very nicely out of the PSL, you're making good money, that's great. Now let's go and get those same customers coming back more frequently. Let's get the internal referrals going on so that we get more out of the same. Again, fairly obvious example, but it just shows you how the balance shifts. And the reason I'm saying it's obvious, but it's not that obvious when your nose is this far away from the grindstone, when you're actually so busy doing the job that you don't get the chance to think about what the job is, should be, or could be. Common sense is rarely common practice. So if you're on a PSL and you're established, it's probably about getting more from the same people, getting people to come back more often. If you've got an irregular client list, and that they've got a fair number of customers and they're paying okay-ish rates, but they're just not working with you that often. Now, quick caveat, if they're not working with you that often because they can't, because they have only very occasional requirements, that's a different situation. But let's assume that they could give you more work, but they're not. So you've got not that many customers, not enough customers who aren't paying enough and who aren't coming back as often as they could do. Where's the balance? Where's the balance there? Well, the balance in that situation is actually the most difficult one, because the balance there is you've got to do all three at the same time. You need to get more customers, coming back more often and spending more each time. However, the mistake most people make is they try and apply that globally. So they try and get more customers, and they try and get every existing customer to pay more and every existing customer to come back more often. And balancing all three of those at the same time, that's a biggie. That's a tough one. Yeah. So what you might want to do, I'm just going to give you some suggestions. These aren't fixed in stone. There's any number of different combinations. What you might want to do is say, okay, let's get some new customers on board, focus on more customers, and let's try and get the new customers to pay better rates. So that drags up the average. And let's focus on bringing those new customers back as frequently as possible. So we start out with more new customers who better fit what we want to be doing. That's great. And then the rising tide lifts all boats. That's great. And if you did that, you could then go back to your existing customers, because you've got a cushion of these of the revenue from these new customers, and you could take the risk of alienating some people by putting their price up by 3, 4, 5%. You can go back to those people and proactively ask them for more assignments, because there's no downside. So there's lots of ways you can do it. Alternatively, you could say, okay, well, I'm going to work on getting some new customers. I'm going to put a couple of hours a day into trying to get new customers. But what I'm also going to do is go out to our existing customers, demonstrate the value that we're delivering, and show them that we're worth that 5% price increase, that 5% increase in our fees. Because ultimately, I'm going to get new customers in anyway. And if I'm not making money on working with them, is it really worth having on the books? So your sort of secondary priority is bringing in new customers. Your primary focus, the primary balance, is on getting more people to pay more each time. Now, in some of the subsequent videos, I'll talk about how important it is to increase your prices, and that the price increase you're achieving looks like a lot to you. And unless they really think about it, it will look like a lot to some clients. But in reality, it's not. Let me give you a quick example now. Let's say you've got a customer who's paying you 15%. They pay all their recruitment firms 15%. And you know that you can justify going to 20. That's great. Okay. Think about the numbers for a second. Let's say it's for the sake of keeping the numbers simple, let's say it's a £30,000 role. Okay. I know that's high for some of you and way too low for others, but I'm just keeping the math simple for me. So it's £30,000 role. That increase from 15 to 20% means that the fees go from 4,500, I think. Yeah, 4,500 to 6,000, an increase of 1,500. Okay. Now, 1,500 quid may or may not be a lot of money to your client. But 1,500 quid to you, well, okay, it's 1,500 quid. Yeah, but if you scope that out across your entire client base, you've increased your business by 33.33%, because you've gone from 15 to 20%. So yes, it's a small increase in cost to your client, but it's a massive impact on your revenue and your bottom line. But here's the thing. That 1,500 quid as a proportion of the total cost of recruitment, salary, national insurance, IT, all the rest of it, 1,500 quid is a much smaller amount. Equally, that 1,500 quid, if you can prove that you've been bringing in better candidates faster, that 1,500 quid is nothing. So always focus on the fact that what you're charging the customer, the increase you're trying to get there, is relatively small to them, but it's massive to you. It's really important to you. So that's back to the balance element. I could equally well make a case for, well, what matters is, I'm not as busy as I could be, I've got this irregular client list, I might be better to get the existing customers to come back more frequently, because that will give me the revenue cushion to go out and find new customers. All of those are equally valid. You are the expert in your situation, so you can take the decision about which way to balance it out. Okay, let's look at the worst one. The worst possible situation where you are working your tailpipe off, you're running around like a headless chicken with its tail on fire, and you're making no money. You've got loads of roles, you could even be making loads of placements, but they're not profitable. You're just not making any money off them. I can already feel the energy leaving my body, and oh God, it's Monday, I've got to go back into the desk. Oh God. Let's turn that around, shall we? Okay. You're busy, but you're unprofitable. What are the 3 growth factors? More customers, coming back more often, spending more each time. Well, the very last thing you need is for them to come back more often. And unless you can get your new customers to pay you some decent rates, that's probably not the focus either. So in this situation where you're running around like a headless chicken and making no money, your focus has to be, primary focus, because it's not either or, your primary focus has to be on renegotiating your rates and justifying your rates. I'll give you some great tools to do that in the subsequent videos. It's actually spread over 2 of the subsequent videos, so watch them all. It's in your own interests. But the secondary focus should be on bringing in new customers who are willing to pay good rates that you can make money on, so that you can gradually talk to your existing customers and either put their prices up or let them go. Very politely make your excuses and leave. So you don't have to do one or the other with these things. You don't have to solely focus on one element. But once you've got the fact that these 3 growth factors work in harmony together, you can look at your desk and your situation and go, you know what? This is what I need to be doing. But the only way to do it is to take a step back, because when you're that far from the grindstone, you can't see the obvious and you can't apply common sense. So that's what we're going to do. The action plan from this module is really simple. Take a really good look at where you are. Look at the roles you're handling, look at the fees you're bringing in, look at the kind of clients you've got and what potential they have or don't have to bring in more opportunities. And ask yourself this question. And this is a very specific question. You'll find it down below on this page as well. What's the quickest, easiest, and best way to take my business from where I am to where I want to go over the next 6 months? What's the quickest, easiest, and best way to take my desk from where I am to where I want to be over the next 6 months? Now, that sounds like a simple question. It may well be, but I pretty much guarantee you that the initial answer is going to be, well, if I knew that, I'd have already done it. What are you doing? Fine. And then the second answer will be, oh, that's a toughie. So let me give you the third answer, just to save both of us an awful lot of heartache. The third answer is, okay, that's a toughie. Let's look at all 3. What if I did focusing on bringing in new customers? Okay. What if I put my prices up? What if I try to get more roles off the existing clients? Run each of those 3 situations as a hypothetical, and then look at how you can combine them, because it's a very unusual situation where only one applies. Honestly, I think I've seen it maybe half a dozen times in the past 20 years. Is it possible? Yeah. I'm talking about other than it's a cold desk with no experience. But, you know, so ask yourself, okay, well, what about if I did more clients? Or what about getting the existing clients to pay more? Or what about getting the existing clients to come back more often? Okay, now how can I combine those? And what you're looking for is the optimal balance. What's the quickest, easiest, and best way to take my desk from where I am to where I want to be in the next 6 months?